A friend of mine and I were talking about the size of government. When I suggested the federal government was too big, he said he couldn't agree because he wasn't qualified to know if the government was too big and was engaged in things it should not be engaged in. He seems to think some government geniuses are running the government and that those geniuses understand how big the government should be and what the government should or should not do. I suggested we look at one example of something the federal government does that, in my opinion, the federal government should not do. The program I chose is the Federal National School Lunch Program. The purpose of the program is stated on the government's website as the National School Lunch Program, NSLP, is a federally assisted meal program operating in public and nonprofit private schools and residential child care institutions. It provides nutritionally balanced, low-cost, or free lunches to children each school day. According to the government's website, in 2019, the program provided 4.9 billion lunches, served about 30 million students, and cost about $14.2 billion. That was 4 years ago. I suspect the amount being spent as of the writing of this article is significantly more. I suggested to my friend that the National School Lunch Program is something the federal government should not be doing. I don't see anywhere in the Constitution where the government is responsible for providing school kids with peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Okay, I admit the kids may not be getting peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, but I think you get the point. My friend said, if not the federal government, then who should provide the lunches? My response was as follows. First, the parents should provide the lunches. Second, if the parents cannot afford lunches for their kids, then friends and relatives should provide them. If friends and relatives cannot provide them, then local charities should provide them. If local charities cannot provide them, then the local school board should provide them. If the local school board cannot provide them, then the city in which that school is located should provide them. If the city cannot provide them, then the county should provide them. If the county cannot provide them, then the state should provide them. By my calculation, there are 8 groups or organizations that could or should provide lunches to students before the federal government gets involved. My friend says that what if those 8 groups and organizations don't provide lunches? Then should we let the children starve to death? There is no evidence that if the federal government didn't provide lunches, that students would starve to death. There are some 75 million children 17 and under in the U.S. If you take a constant distribution and children starting school at 5 years of age, that means about 53 million students are in grade school. If the government program helped 30 million students, then the government program is helping almost 60% of all grade school students in the U.S. Child poverty is at a record low in the U.S., running below 6%. So, if the government wants to help those who are in poverty, it should only be helping about 3 million students, not 30 million. Further, those who are in poverty have a whole host of sources for food, from food stamps, SNAP, to food banks, to local charities, to retailers and restaurants that give away food. Further, is it the federal government's job to step in when citizens, city governments, county governments, and state governments don't do something they should be doing? No, it is not. The federal government's role is restricted by the Constitution, and as mentioned, I don't see anywhere in the Constitution that says the federal government should be spending money on peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for kids. The National School Lunch Program was signed into law in 1946. That was almost 80 years ago. I wonder if even once in those 80 years, anyone in charge of the National School Lunch Program ever asked, is this program still needed? Do we need to be spending $14 billion on lunches for school kids? I doubt it ever happened. Anyone who might even suggest that would probably be fired or ostracized. Maybe there are a few children who would starve if they didn't get a free lunch. Okay, fine. Let's find those specific children and help them. Seems to me if we have a child that is starving to death in the U.S., that child should be taken away from its parents and put in a home for children, or even better, put up for adoption by a familiar that can afford to buy peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. The reality is we live in the land of plenty, and we have a plethora of social programs and charities that can help people who can't afford a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. The National School Lunch Program is of dubious benefit. It is paying for lunches for millions of students who are not in poverty and who are not starving to death. It takes $14 billion out of the hands of productive citizens, and it puts it in the hands of entrenched bureaucrats who have little interest or concern if the money is being spent wisely or even needed. If we do have starving students, there are many other groups, people, and organizations who should and would step up to the plate. And it is clearly something that is not authorized by the Constitution. A logical, rational thinker does not need a guru in Washington to determine if the government is too big and engaged in activities it should not be engaged in. It is obvious to anyone who cares to examine the facts. However, if you believe, like many people today believe, that the answer to all of society's ills is more government programs and more government spending, if you believe that freedom and liberty don't matter, if you believe that the bigger the government, the better, if you believe that the government knows how to spend your money better than you do, then the National School Lunch Program makes all of the sense in the world.